What's going on, everyone? This is Luke from South Beach Sports, and in today's video we are back on fanspo.com creating another ideal offseason for the Miami Heat. In our last video we constructed an offseason built around a Brandon Ingram trade, and in today's video we will be constructing an offseason built around a Collin Sexton trade. Now, just to remind you guys that if you enjoyed the video and if you enjoy content like this, make sure to like and subscribe, man. We produce so many videos here on South Beach Sports and you do not want to miss a single thing. Also, make sure to hit that notification bell because you guys know what that YouTube algorithm sometimes, that even if you are subscribed, the videos still won't pop up on your homepage. So make sure to hit that bell so you do not miss a single video. So just to summarize what this video will be like, I will be constructing an entire Miami Heat offseason that I think will set up the Heat very nicely for not only next season but for the future. The main acquisition in this hypothetical offseason that I've made would be a Collin Sexton trade to the Heat. The Heat have already shown that they would be interested in Collin Sexton according to Adam Barai at 5 Reasons Sports, so that's definitely something to watch out for come draft time. Now, I'm not going to get into too much about what Collin Sexton would bring to the Heat because I've already made a video on this. I will link that down in the description below. But in this hypothetical trade, I would be sending away Andre Iguodala, Tyler Herro, who I think would fit very nicely next to Darius Garland as an off-ball shooter, and Precious Achiuwa with an additional first-round pick attached to the Cavs for Collin Sexton. Now, the Heat currently do not hold a first-round pick. They wouldn't obtain a first-round pick till I think early August when the new NBA year rolls around and they would acquire that 2028 first-round pick. So I have the Heat performing a sign and trade with the Knicks for Kendrick Nunn, who would be signing with the Knicks with a 3-year, $45 million deal. In this sign and trade, the Knicks would be sending back a first-round pick that the Heat would then use in a Collin Sexton trade. To briefly talk about this package, I know some Heat fans are going to be reluctant to trade away Tyler Herro, but in return they will be getting a phenomenal young scorer in Sexton, who's only a year older than Herro, and I think this trade would work out well for both sides. I'm not really sure how well a Sexton and Garland backcourt would work in the future. If you pair Garland with a shooter like Herro, who I think would develop very nicely next to him, that could be a better long-term fit. For the Heat, Sexton would be that scoring whale that they need so badly, and I think that not only would Sexton provide the Heat with a championship window next to Jimmy and Bam, but when Jimmy starts to decline and he's not in his prime anymore, then the Heat would have an additional championship window with Sexton, Bam, and an additional star that they would bring in a future offseason. The Cavs would also be acquiring a raw but very talented prospect in Precious Achiuwa. I'm a big Achiuwa fan, but I do have my questions about how an Achiuwa and Bam frontcourt mixture would work in the future. So I think a fresh start for Precious, somewhere that I think he could gain more minutes initially, would definitely benefit him. Before I get into the free agency portion of this offseason construction video, go ahead and comment down below your thoughts on this trade package that I've put together for Collin Sexton. As for some of last year's Miami Heat players, I do have the Heat declining Goran Dragic's team option of $19 million. I love Dragic. He's been one of my favorite players in the Heat ever since he got traded back in I think 2015, I believe. But his team option is way too expensive to bring it back, especially for the production that he would be bringing. So I have the Heat declining that. I also have the Heat not bringing back Trevor Ariza or Nemanja Bjelica, but I do have the Heat bringing back Dwayne Dedmon, who has already expressed interest in rejoining the Heat. I also have the Heat bringing back both their two-way contract players from last season in Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. I think both these players could develop into key bench players for the Heat in the future. I especially like Gabe Vincent's potential as the future backup point guard of the Heat. I really like the physicality and toughness that he brings on the defensive end, and I think that he'll develop his shooting touch this season. I also have the Heat bringing in 3 key free agent signings that I think would play key minutes for them this season. I have the Heat bringing in Marquis Morris on a 2-year, $5 million contract. I think Morris would slide into that starting power forward spot and would bring a lot of what Jay Crowder brought when he was a member of the Heat. Morris is a tough player. He's an enforcer. Some people call him dirty, but I think the Heat kind of need that. He would also be a very good corner 3-point shooter, and that's something that the Heat need from their power forward spot. I also have the Heat signing both Wayne Ellington and Torrey Craig to minimum contracts. I think Craig would be a very versatile 3-and-D type player for the Heat. He's been a key rotational player for the Suns this past playoff run, and I think he'd be able to handle some very tough wing assignments, especially in the playoffs, and you need these type of guys. You need the guys that are going to go out and guard the KDs of the world, the Giannis's of the world, the Chris Middletons of the world, the James Hardens of the world. I'm just thinking of some top Eastern Conference scorers, but those are the guys you need, and I think Torrey Craig would be able to do this for the Heat. Now, as far as Ellington is concerned, I think he would be a phenomenal shooter off the bench for the Heat. Wayne Ellington has already been a member of the Heat, and when he was a member, he did break the single season three-pointers made record, which was eventually broken by Duncan Robinson. But Wellington is still probably a top 15 to top 20 shooter in the league. He had a successful season this past year with Detroit, and I think he would be a key shooter off the bench for Miami. With this Collin Sexton trade, which would cost a lot of money because the Heat would likely re-sign Sexton to a 5-year, $158 million deal, as that is the rookie extension max contract, and with all the additional free agent signings, the Heat would be capped out. But good thing is about bird rights, the Heat would be able to go over the cap and into the luxury tax to re-sign both Duncan Robinson and Victor Oladipo. I have Duncan Robinson re-signing with the Heat for a 4-year, $80 million contract. I think this contract number is a little bit less than what Robinson might be able to get from another team, but obviously the Heat and Robinson have a ton of familiarity with each other, so I think there could be a hometown discount in place. As for Victor Oladipo, I have him re-signing with the Heat on a 1-year, $7 million prove-it deal. Oladipo has not yet proven that he could stay healthy enough to become the player he once was, so if Oladipo does recover from his injury and is able to become a key player next season for the Heat, then he could obviously rack in a more lucrative contract in next year's free agency. As for what this rotation would look like after such a huge roster reconstruction, I think the starting lineup would be Collin Sexton, Jimmy Butler, Duncan Robinson, Marquis Morris, and Bam Adebayo, with Jimmy Butler being the de facto point guard of this team. And I think the bench lineup would be led by Victor Oladipo, who would obviously be the main shot creator off the bench, in addition to Torrey Craig, Wayne Ellington, Dwayne Dedmon, and one of the young guys in KZ Okpala, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, or maybe even Omar Yurtseven. In the starting lineup, I think Collin Sexton would be able to carry a majority of that perimeter scoring load, which would be such a huge relief off of Jimmy Butler's shoulders. And for that bench lineup, you have multiple two-way players in both Torrey Craig and Victor Oladipo, so that would be a huge improvement from last year. So that's going to be it for today, guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on my offseason plan for the Heat. And go ahead and comment down below your offseason plan for the Heat, because I would love to talk about it with you guys. Also, in the description, I will be linking our second channel called Switch Talks, which is about everything basketball and NBA related. Matthew Newland recently recorded a film breakdown about Cade Cunningham, so go ahead and check that out if it interests you. With that being said, I will catch you later. Peace.